Holy shit, look at that guy on the wrong side of the highway. He's going to kill somebody.
God.
Hey! Hey!
What's going on? Joker wants to race. All right, come on, let's go, let's go.
Put your window down!
He wants something. He's probably drunk.
You're going the wrong way!
What?
You're going the wrong way!
We're going. Yeah, how could he know? Thank you. Thank you.
You're going in the wrong direction! You're going to kill somebody! You're going the wrong way! What is it?
Well, hello, everybody. It is the Dennis and Andy Show. We are back. Last week, I didn't do a show. I had work to do. This guy was still out of town vacationing around the world. I think he was in France, maybe Switzerland. I don't know. It's like Dora the Explorer over here. He's everywhere. In 2 more weeks, he's going to be jetting off to the West Coast. Guys, it's that time of year when it's where in the world is Dennis Turner. Right now, he's back and he's here.
I am back.
And he's gone to San Francisco, so maybe he's a little, what rhymes with here? You know what I'm saying. Beer.
I was just up in Wisconsin helping out, visiting family, and helping out around the house, getting some projects done. And it was nice. We got sun a whopping 3 days, so it was those were nice 3 days when we were up there. But yeah. Yep, it was great, but I am back. I'm stuck here with Andy.
Whoa. That's pretty funny considering when you opened the door, it was like freaking Dirty Dancing. You ran over to me and expected me to pick you up and stuff. You were so excited to be back. You almost jumped in my arms, and I was like, "Whoa, big guy!" So I can't handle that type of weight on these legs and my back.
We were just talking about something for Bella. We have another video that we will be able to show you later in the show. That would be a funny one.
I don't know what you're talking about. These videos were our audition videos. We tried out for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the remake. We did not get cast, but we do, that was our audition tape. We do have another one we're going to debut later in the show from another great buddy movie. And so we'll show that later. Let's start off like we always do. Say hi to some people here. Devil Flyer at 2:09 popped in and said, "Justice Machine, hey Bill," talking about our guest. Bill Reinhold.
And yes, I know you asked and we talked. We will find time to, you asked us back on your show. We will let you know. We are definitely down for that. We just have to know when we can fit it in our schedule. And I will be leaving for a few weeks again.
Yeah.
Because we got Heroes Con coming up. And I know a bunch of you guys that will be in or watching this later are going to be joining us at Heroes Con in the great Charlotte, North Carolina. Fantastic show, giant comic book show. it'll be great to see y'all.
That's right. Leg Kick is in the house. Marcus Kellegrew, Electric Pen Media, Richard Stonke, who is going to be right in row with us at Heroes Con.
He's in with all the VIPs this year.
That's
nice
right.
to see.
He paid the right people.
Yeah.
Past Master Dan in the house. Lots of guys here. Beautiful. Joe Bernardo is going to be here very soon, staying at Dennis's place. It's a good thing you got that brand new king size bed. And Joe, you will be glad to know both sides are adjustable. And if you don't like the temperature, you can change it. And you can even change the elevation from what Dennis tells me. So you guys will have a good time in that king.
Yep, look at that. Oh, yeah. And I got your new flight schedule, so you're all set.
And Dan Lawless in the house says he's excited to hear from the great Bill Reinhold, who we're going to bring on now. Without further ado, hello.
Hey, guys.
Bill, welcome.
Did you like our planes, trains, and automobiles performance?
Yeah, I've seen it before. That was awesome. I actually didn't even quite realize it was you guys. I suppose mostly because of how Andy looked.
Right?
I know he had hair. Nobody would guess that.
Nobody.
Yeah, no glasses, and you didn't have facial hair in that, right? No.
Nope, I didn't.
Yeah,
but, you know.
Yeah, but that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, this woman, Belle Winters, puts those together. She does a fantastic job. She did a nice 15-20 minute one, I think, with some of our friends in a Star Trek episode. So yeah,
that was good.
Awesome.
Artificial intelligence can be used for good, is what we're trying to say, just not for comics.
Right.
That's all we're saying.
Right.
What is this? I've never noticed that before.
So far.
Yes.
So far, so good.
But we have seen Terminator. We know what happens in the end.
Oh my God.
Right. Exactly.
There she is. Look at that. In the chat. We'll be debuting the next video a little later in the show as more people join us. So stay tuned.
Talented Belle Winters.
That's right. All right, let's kick it off, Dennis.
Yep. You guys, this is Bill's first time to the DNA show. So you guys, many of you are returning. Some of you are brand new. So we always start off with an origin question. So the first origin question, Bill, is what was the first comic book you read? And did you buy it or did somebody give it to you?
I couldn't tell you the first comic book I read. I can only tell you the first way I read comics. I can tell you when I first started collecting, what I was reading. But first comics I would ever see was as a little kid, when you went to the barber shop, they'd be there. Any drugstore, anywhere there were comics. So the first times of buying comics just casually, nothing about collecting or anything like that. Right. I was buying Batman, the Flash, mostly that, I would say. Maybe some Green Lantern. This is in the that'd be mid 60s to early 60s when I would see these comic books. But then it was in 67 when I was at a shop, just like a little store, because there was no comic book shops that I knew of. There might have been one in Chicago then, I'm not sure. But they had an issue of Daredevil, I think it was Daredevil 40, and they had next to it Daredevil 41. So 2 in a row, and I was like, wow, and so I had to buy both of them. And then it was like I was addicted right after that. Then I had to buy the next one and next one. And then I was totally getting into Marvel Comics. DC Comics, not so much. And because it's a continuing stories, you want to buy the next one. And buying Marvel Comics at that time, keeping up with all the series was pretty easy because there weren't that many books.
Oh, yeah.
So I was always buying Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Thor, a number of others. And I was really avidly reading and basically collecting up until about 72. And at that time I started playing drums and kind of forgot about art and comic books to some extent. At least wasn't paying as much attention.
Sure.
And then some years later, after I decided to stop playing drums. It was going okay, and I was in some bands that I thought, we were doing well, at least sounding good, and I felt good about my playing and everything. But it was just like one day, it was almost like an epiphany that this wasn't going to be for me. It's not going to be my future being a musician, professional, that is. And so I still play drums, but the idea of trying to make it a career stopped in like 76. And so I basically quit. And then I went back to art. I started painting and drawing. And at that time, I got back into comic books more, following them regularly. And then went to art school. And that is what set everything off.
You didn't ditch the books. Like when you got out of comics for that period where you were doing drums, you didn't like get rid of the stuff you bought though, did you?
Oh no, I still have them.
Oh, good.
I still have.
Do you still have those today that you bought back then? Do you really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not all fantastic condition. I wasn't, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to that. Although in the early 70s to mid 70s, I started buying sometimes 5 of like a #1 issue. And these are all just like various series, nothing that is important. I'd have to double check them all now, and I totally got into, the big time also, I forget, for comics. And this is before I was pulling away from somewhat. It was in 1970 when Kirby went to DC. I bought all the Fourth World stuff. I bought all that stuff. I was totally into that. And the way I discovered it, because there was nothing for me to see as an advertisement, I just knew Kirby was all of a sudden disappearing at Marvel, wasn't doing the Fantastic Four. John Romita was doing it. I was like, what's going on, So I was at some sort of shop, and they had a spinner rack, and there it was. Kirby is here on New Gods.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? So started buying all that stuff. That was so cool.
So were you lucky enough? Because I mean, in the time frame you're talking about, did you buy like Giant Size X-Men #1 or anything, or Hulk 181?
I missed that. What was the other one?
Hulk 181, the first Wolverine full issue.
No, didn't buy that either. No, that was, I think I would have been kind of like not paying attention at that time so much. And I did get into Chris Claremont's X-Men. But it was by the time he was doing it, I think after Cockrum left, and I went back and bought some of those. But I was buying all that run of Claremont's stuff. I was totally into that. That was the first time I think I felt like I was seeing modern comic books, because he had kind of like a soap opera feel to them, with the characters. So like cared about them, It was like watching some TV series where you cared about all the characters, And so I was totally into that. And then Dark Knight was coming out.
Oh man, you made a huge jump from that to Dark Knight. That's like an 8-year jump.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But I was thinking about Claremont's X-Men. That was like, it was near that time. Daredevil, Frank Miller's Daredevil, all that stuff was around that time.
So when you got back into art, did you go to art school after high school, or what was your path?
Not after high school. Like I said, I thought I was going to be a drummer, so I kept doing that. And so I graduated high school in 73. And then in 76 is when I stopped playing drums. And then went to art school in 79. I went to the American Academy of Art in Chicago, which is a great school for illustrators. I almost went to the Art Institute because I thought, well, want to go to art school, where do you go? Art Institute in Chicago. And then people said, no, you don't want to go there. They knew I was in the comics and illustration. You want to go to the American Academy of Art, because that school was like Andrew Loomis is like a god there, And that's where also years later, Jill Thompson went there and Alex Ross. That's where they went to school. But there, it was great because I went there for 3 years, even though it was only a 2-year associate's degree school,
Oh.
not a college. You know, so in other words, all the
Right.
courses were just studio classes. You know, it was all art. There was
Yeah,
no.
that's how the Kubert school.
We didn't have art history. It was just, you know, except what your
That's-
teacher might talk to you about in class, and
That's
all that art history was illustrators. It was not even talking about classical art. It was just
Right. That's how that you got more art history there than I did at the Kubert school. Because the Kubert school is the same
all the stuff I got back here, like Maxfield Parrish, Howard Pyle, N.C. Wyeth, Leyendecker, Coles Phillips, you know, and then all the Andrew Loomis books, all that stuff I discovered really, it started really from school, at the American Academy. And the thing that was great about that school was that the first year it was 2 classes for the day, 3 hours of fundamentals, which was everything from color and design, some basic drawing, learning perspective, things like that. And then the second half of the day was 3 hours of life drawing. So you had 3 hours of life drawing 5 days a week.
Oh,
which was,
man.
And then so I did that for 3 years.
Wow. Yeah, see, we only had life drawing. So it's funny because I knew about, you know, that school. I've heard of it. But you know, I was dead set going to the Kubert school. But it almost
that was my first idea. That's where I first thought of going.
Yeah, well, it almost sounds like Joe might have taken some cues from that school, because the Kubert school was 5 days a week, 2 classes a day, basically 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes. Then you had a lunch, then another class. The difference is we had life drawing all 3 years, but we only had it 1 day a week. And then we had 9 different classes, you know, for the rest of the week. You know, but life drawing every day, holy crap, that would have been awesome.
Well, it was great for me. It changed my life because my drawing was, you know, I had been drawing, you know, on the side for a long time, but I never really drew from life much at all. Now and then. I mean, I remember once when I was in high school, I drew myself in the mirror, and that was like kind of an eye opener doing that. Like, you know, seeing your drawing kind of come up to another level. But I didn't really do that on a regular basis. Every time I tried to draw comic stuff, I was doing it all out of my head. Didn't use any reference or anything. And now I use tons of reference.
So when you were doing, so now I'm curious, when you were doing life drawing, like at the Kubert school, the life drawing was, the way they taught it was to teach you how to draw figures out of your head, right? Because, you know, the Kubert school,
really?
School. Yeah, that's how they taught it. It was all about figure construction.
Yeah, but Al Williamson didn't draw the figures out of his head.
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't solely like never use reference.
Okay.
It was. I guess a good way to explain it is like, let's say the model, and you know, kind of like every school, you have a mix of male and female models. So let's say the model was some, you know, 5 foot tall guy that was out of shape, right?
Right.
Well, the way they taught us though at the Kubert school was, okay, that's how he looks, but we want to teach you heroic proportions. So we go by the 8 head high figure. So draw the pose that guy's in, but make him classical 8 head high proportions.
Yeah.
So in other words, it wasn't draw what you see, draw what we're teaching you. You know.
Yeah, I would have appreciated that. But my school at that time, they didn't think about comic books at all. In fact, most of the teachers I knew looked down on them. That school's completely turned around, especially ever since Alex Ross went there.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and then he's all over the walls in that place. So everything about comic books I taught myself, and was influenced by, you know, I guess maybe the first drawing book I ever had on comic books was the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way.
Oh yeah.
You know, learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
And so, so I would, you know, I would certainly draw out of my head to a certain extent, and I never used photo reference directly. When I drew comic books early on, the way I would draw is I would draw it on my head first, then I would look in the mirror, you know, to make sure I got an arm right, the hands, whatever. I do poses in the mirror, and just like have my board right there drawing, you know. Where today I might just take photo reference and not, you know, try and kill myself doing some strange pose, you know, while I'm holding my board, you know. So as far as the proportion thing and the dynamics and everything, I just learned that from all the comic book artists I love so much. I know, Andy, you like Gil Kane a lot, I think.
Oh,
right?
I love Gil Kane. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a huge influence on me drawing superhero figures. And then after that, it was kind of everybody else, but he was my main guy. And then, of course, Kirby for dynamics and things like that. But and I was influenced by a lot of artists for different reasons. But as far as drawing superhero figures, it was totally Gil Kane.
Oh yeah, well, you know, we'll bounce around at this point, but I was going to bring up, you know, one of the first things I saw of yours when I was collecting comics, you know, in the 80s and stuff, and one of the first works of yours that I saw, and it just hit me because I was like, oh my God, this guy has such a great Gil Kane influence, was Justice Machine.
Yeah.
And
that's the annual that's most well known. That's what's the most well known. It's because the backup story is Elementals by Bill Willingham. So
yeah, but dude, I tell you, and that's
here's my first comic. That's the first comic that I did. It's not the first comic I had published. The first published book I did was Justice Machine #3. I had a story in, and that came out in '81, I think.
Yeah.
But that Scary Tales story was a story I did for Charlton. That's a long story, but that became my portfolio I carried around, and that's how I got the gig with Mike Gustovich when he was doing Justice Machine. I showed him that work, and then right away he was at the Chicago Con promoting Justice Machine. He was at a table, had Justice Machine #1 sitting there promoting it, and I'm like, you know, what's this? It was an independent superhero book. I never heard of such a thing, you know. So in fact, he is one of the first people to ever do it, I guess, of a team book at least. And so I showed him my work, and he wanted to hire me to ink him. And he's well known as an inker too, and because I penciled ink my stuff all the time, and then after a while he said, you know, I think I'd rather you pencil and I'll ink you. I said, okay. So that's how penciling started for me at that time.
And then so you drew that Charlton book first, but it came out after the Justice Machine. Is that what you were trying to get?
Came out in '83. Came out in '83. But I drew the story, I think in it might 79 or 80.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, it might have been 80. It might have been the year 82, and the publishing says 83. But
was it
it just
was it the whole issue, or was it?
No, it was just it was like it was a science fiction story. It was like 10 pages, 12 pages long. It's kind of a Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars kind of influence thing. And I'll show you one more page as long as I'm doing this. I don't think I've ever held these up anywhere.
Who wrote it?
Me. I wrote it.
You wrote it?
I wrote it, penciled, inked it. I penciled, inked it, and I lettered it. But that's only because I didn't know anybody to help me. I knew nobody to help me. I had to do it all.
Looks awesome. You know what? Hold on. I got to write that down. What's the title and the issue number?
Scary Tales number 37.
I'm writing that down.
Publishing date says March '83, so it probably came out in '82.
Look, you can get it too.
I know, Scary Tale. Well, Heroes Con's coming up. We know what we're going to be looking for.
We'll be at a convention in a couple of weeks. So, no, it's funny because I don't really buy a lot of new comics anymore. I buy more back to Silver Age, whatever, right? And I've
And it's
gotten
too
a
easy to
lot of-
look at. It's too easy to look at stuff online. It's like I used to go to the comic shop regularly just to peruse, see what's going on. But now I don't
Right.
have to. I can do all that on the internet. So
Right. So now what I've been doing is if I can, if it's an artist I know, I'll try and find their first published work if I know what it is.
Yeah.
So like I never knew about that. I thought it was Justice Machine because I had that
Well-
Justice Machine #3.
Justice Machine #2.
Or
I
2.
had three. I had 3 pinups in,
Oh, okay.
and then advertised I was coming on to the series, and
Okay.
then #3 is my first story.
Did you draw? See, this is where the fanboy in me comes out every now and then. Did you draw? Did you draw Cobalt Blue at all?
Yeah,
Remember
we had a
that character?
backup. Well, originally, of course, Mike Gustovich created and drew that for his company called Power Comics, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
That came out previous to Justice Machine, but he put in Cobalt Blue as a backup in Justice Machine. So I was drawing that also.
Yes, that too, man. Once again, I love that. That was a character, simple design, but I was like, I love this guy.
It's kind of a Starlin-esque kind of character.
So how did you get that? How did you get that Charlton gig where you basically were like, I want to work in comics. Okay, great. You can write it, pencil, ink, and letter.
Yeah, because now here's the other part of the origin.
Yeah, I got the long story. I got the long story for that. Okay, so Charlton Comics, they put out a comic series called Charlton Bullseye. Now, there's a famous fanzine that Charlton put out. They had like Ditko's art and stuff like that in it. But they decided to put out this book. By this time in the early 80s, they were only doing reprint books and of all their past stuff at Charlton. So they decided for fun or whatever, the editor wanted to put out a series where he invited, I don't know, I can't remember how he heard about it, but they invited amateurs to submit work to be published. And they would pay you by giving you 50 free copies of the book. Not that I cared. I just wanted to get published, So I drew, penciled the 10-page story. It was 10 or 12. And sent Xeroxes in. And they said, hey, this looks great. Go ahead and finish it. And then I finished it. But by the time I finished it, their series had stopped. So they said, we still want to publish it. We're going to put it in one of our regular titles, Scary Tales. So I thought, oh, that's super cool because that's a legit book, one of their long-standing series. So, and then by that time, I had met my friend Mitch O'Connell, who's a great illustrator. He also went to the American Academy of Art, and he ended up inking the cover for that story.
Oh, cool.
We started to Mitch O'Connell and I used to take turns penciling and inking each other, and we would submit them to Comics Buyer's Guide and other fanzines, where in the early days of some of those fanzines and stuff, they would publish amateur work for their articles. They'd be like, we're doing a Batman story, and they'd use one of your drawings for the Batman story where there's an interview with Denny O'Neil or something. So I got to, that was one of the ways I started getting my foot in the door in comics books in general.
Oh, wow. That is, I got to find that. That is freaking cool. So because they used it in Scary Tales, the question is, was it still, here's 50 copies or did they pay you?
Yeah, it was 50 copies.
Okay.
Yeah, which was cool.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Torchbearer Studios is asking, how did Bill get on Badger, and what was that like?
Okay, the way I got on Badger, I'd been doing Justice Machine for a while. We did that annual, and then Noble Comics, who was the Mike Gustovich's company that originally put out Justice Machine, he partnered with well, why am I forgetting now?
First
Texas Comics. Texas Comics. Yes, Texas Comics and Noble put out the annual, and then they started working. Had us working on a new series but it died before the company died before anything could get published. We drew the first issue, and I drew part of the second one, but none of that got published except years later. They did publish the first issue through another company. It was edited to some extent, and they had some flashback stuff thrown in there or whatever. But either way, so when Just the Machine was ending, I was at a small convention in Chicago. The Chicago Con, the people who put that on, Larry Sherritt, he used to put on a small show every 6 weeks downtown Chicago, the Americana Congress. So I had gone to that, and as an artist, and we sat at a little table, me and Jeff D. Jeff D was my inker on most of my Justice Machine stuff. Right. And Mike Barron was there promoting Nexus and Badger with Capital Comics. And he saw our work and said, "Hey, how would you guys like to do a couple fill-in issues for the Badger?" And so I said, "Oh, sure," because we were looking for stuff to do. I was doing some gaming work at that time because Jeff D comes from that. So we started working on that. I did the first issue. It was actually under Capital Comics, but later got published by First. But
right
by the time we started going, I said the regular artist is leaving. So the co-creator. So we were in as the new artist, and I stayed on Badger from issue 5 to 32, and then did a graphic novel.
Yep.
And then I'll just keep going. Sure. Of course, Mike Barron, what was he doing? He was writing The Punisher.
Yep.
So my time was, finishing with the Badger, and I think just my own decision. And he said, "Hey, you want to draw The Punisher?" So he had written a graphic novel that he submitted, and he asked me to do it before Carl Potts, who was the editor, even asked me to do it. Mike asked me to do it. And then I was in doing that. So that's how it led from Badger to Punisher.
Oh, that's cool. Did that Punisher graphic novel, I think that was one of the pieces you sent me, painted cover?
Did you say painted?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a painted cover. It's on my wall over there, actually. I don't think I have that in front of me. I did a couple. There's one where he's like hanging off the side of a plane, shooting his gun up into the air, and then there's another graphic novel I might have sent you the cover of. I'm not sure where he's in the desert on a camel.
Yeah, that's the one I used for the image.
Wait, hang on 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. Guys, I want to be able to get the first issue he did for Charlton.
There's the original graphic novel. That's the one that we did.
I've got that. I don't have the other one, but I have that one.
Okay. What's interesting about this is that while I was working on it, Carl Potts said, "Hey, stop working on that and work on the Punisher Annual #2, which had
Really?
Moon Knight in it." So I drew that. And then by the time I was done with the graphic novel, they asked me to be the regular artist in the series.
Now, were you inking your own work at this time, or?
On the graphic novel for sure, and on that annual. But when I got to I was actually not crazy about doing the series because I knew I'd have to go back to just penciling.
Right.
When I was finishing up my run in the Badger, I started penciling and inking it, but they gave me extra time to do it. I got like 6 weeks to do a book or something.
Yeah.
Or no, 5, I think. Whatever. But I got more than a month.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't really want to go back to just penciling my stuff and having somebody ink me. And so Carl goes, "Well, how about just doing breakdowns and have somebody else do the finishes?" And well, I guess breakdowns, layouts is just like thumbnails and stuff, and then breakdowns is where everything's just like an outline with no real lighting or shadow, so somebody else to finish all that. So I said, okay. So I started doing that, and Mark Farmer who's a great inker.
Yeah.
He did the finishes, and
Wow.
it was a little rough at first. He was having it was new to him to do that kind of thing.
Right.
And so what ended up happening is I kept adding more pencil and more pencil and more pencil. Next thing I knew, I'm penciling the book. So I became just a pencil, and then all that stuff looked fantastic. Mark Farmer, he moved towards my style, which is a little more organic and using dry brush and stuff, and it just looked really good. So, until I stopped my run on the book.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Joe Bernardo says, Bill, I loved your Moon Knight before the crazy Moon Knight of multiple personalities.
Yeah. Oh, I did like the TV series, but it's nothing like the book.
Who
really.
was
the early book at least?
Who was writing Moon Knight? That wasn't Barron, was it?
The annual with Punisher, yes, he did write that. And that was, I think that was the first, I think that was the very first time they ever showed up together, was in that annual.
Okay.
And then, but actually I did a short Moon Knight story previously while I was still working at First Comics. I did a short Moon Knight story that was published later in Marvel Fanfare. And that story I only penciled, actually, but
God, I think
so I had a little history
too.
Yeah.
So
I did a back cover to it. The Moon Knight story. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know you've inked most of your work throughout your career, but out of all the inkers you've worked with, who would you say was your favorite?
Okay, Mark Farmer was doing an excellent job. Mike Gustovich did a great job on the Badger with me. Jeff D was excellent on the Badger. It was a very different style than mine, but really nice. The one person I talked to that always touts Jeff D's inking is Dan Panosian. He loved it. He loved his inking. He's like, whatever happened to that guy, and he kind of went away from comics. But Jeff D had this kind of, he worked all in brush, but it was, towards a Terry Austin kind of style, you might say. Kind of slick that, square edged, but it was all brush.
Wow.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Rick Bryant inked me for a few issues on the Badger, which is really nice. Yeah.
Did you ever get inked by, did Klaus Janson ever ink you on anything?
No, I wish he had. One of a big influence for me. I finally got to meet him at the last C2E2, which was fantastic.
I was going to say, I bet that would look good with your pencil style.
Oh, totally. It would have been fantastic. The closest I came to that is I was inking Adam Kubert.
Yes.
And Klaus Janson did a few of the pages next to mine. So that's as close as I got.
Huh. That was on was that Spirits of Vengeance?
Yes, Spirits of Vengeance.
Ghost Rider, Spirits of Vengeance.
Ghost Rider, Blaze, Spirits of Vengeance, yes.
So that actually brings up a good question. How did that come about? Because really, up until that point, if you were basically known as a penciler. So how did it come about where it's like, hey, Bill, you want to ink Adam Kubert?
It's funny. I kind of got forgotten as a penciler. Well, who knows what to say about today? But during the time I was inking, I was doing so much inking that people knew me as an inker more than anything else, because you do so many books when you're inking. Anyway, so I had just kind of put it out to people saying, it'd be fun to ink somebody else. And I told Adam Kubert about this at a show, and he remembered it, and he saw, I think he had seen my work on a Hellraiser story I did that I penciled and inked. Because I remember he was telling me how much he loved the way I did the reflection in water. Anyways, and he asked me to do Spirits of Vengeance. And so I said, yeah, sure. And then everything just exploded after that. Once I did that, I got asked to do this, and this. It just kept going and going. for like, I don't know, almost 10 years or something of just
When you
inking all
were
kinds of stuff.
when you first started to ink Adam, did you? Because I have a couple. I have the issues, but I have a couple on my spin rack, especially the one with Venom. Did you find yourself going, oh, I'm used to just inking my stuff, and this is what I use when I ink my stuff, but for this, maybe I'll try something different? Or did you just go, because when I look at your inks, and I don't think we've ever talked about this before, I see a combination of brush and pen. Is that right? Or are you more one than the other? Or
well, when I ink other people, especially back then, I used quite a bit of pen. The Hunt 108, very flexible, is what I use a lot of.
Yeah.
Anyways, anybody I ink, I basically I steer myself towards their stuff for sure. I don't just take over like, the great Kevin Nolan. I don't do what he does.
That's what I was thinking.
So the only way I come close to that is somebody gives me breakdowns. Then it looks a lot like me.
Sure.
So when somebody asks me to ink them, I look at their stuff, especially if they ink their own work. I see what they're doing here, and I try and bring some of that in. So it ends up being a kind of a combination. And I remember with Adam, what was really interesting, and I can't tell you the pen point, but he was using a pen point that's even more flexible than the 108. You probably know it, Andy, from going to the school. Chances are, if I could mention it, but he used this extremely flexible pen. And I tried it for a while. It was almost like really, really like a brush. And
I know there's a 103, which is really flexible, and then there's a 290. I think it's a 290, which is
it's not that either. It's maybe it's a 290. I'm not sure. It's kind of wide too. Anyways, I was doing that and going towards, I look at a lot of his own inking himself and tried to bring a bunch of that in, and so and that was like any other job. It's nice when you work with somebody for a while as an inker, because the first issue you're just working stuff out. As you go on, you both trust each other more, like, you're worrying about what they're going to think about your stuff. And once they're going, oh, I really like what you're doing there, or whatever, then you're like, then after a while, you don't have to worry about anything, and you just go, and you just do your thing, occasionally maybe you'll make some point, but for the most part, that doesn't happen.
How many issues did you stay on that for? Do you recall?
It wasn't that long.
That's what I thought.
Maybe six.
He wasn't really on it super long either.
No, he wasn't. I think he went to like issue 13 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to? I know there was an issue and same when Andy did the few issues of Ghost Rider. Well, when Andy did the few issues of Ghost Rider, Joe inked all of them. But
by the way, I don't know if you were going to use any images I sent you, but I did send you some Spirits of Vengeance stuff, I think. But
did you? Actually, you know what? Let me see.
But yes, I loved when there was one time early on in Spirits of Vengeance where Joe Kubert, Adam's dad, inked him. It was amazing. That was also an influence on me inking Adam too. I would look at Joe's stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Andy shows it more in his work, at least later years, than Adam did. But whatever, so all that influences what I'm doing.
Torchbearer says Spirits of Vengeance #6 is one of my favorite comics of all time.
Cool. That's because of Venom. He was in issues 5 and 6, I think.
I know he was in 5 because that's the one that's on my spin rack. I think it has a white cover and he's walking away from you or something.
There were 2 issues. The one was a painted cover that, it was colored to the point of being painted, I guess.
Yeah.
Adam drew it, but I forget who did the final color on it. It's really nice. He's I think Venom's hanging upside down or something like that.
That's cool.
Oh yeah.
Sentai Ranger Donnie says it's an honor to meet you, Bill. So they love to hear that.
Nice to meet you.
Past Master Dan says, Bill, your shelves look a little burdened.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's those IKEA shelves. I mean,
No,
occasionally I would like, I'd flip them over, the board.
I do that too.
But I haven't done it in years now. I haven't done it in years now.
I
These
know.
look better. These look better because those are actual real shells. The IKEA ones, those, that's another story.
Yeah, I flip mine over. Mine are an IKEA, but same thing. They bow, and I'm like, all right, pull the shelves, pull the books off, flip the shelf.
EC collection on top. That's pretty darn heavy books.
So I was just going to say, because that's what they look like, were the ECs. I've got a few of them, but those hardcovers, they're fantastic. You got a lot of.
When they start coming out, I had the money to buy them, and I just bought almost all of them.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Hey, so when you did the Silver Surfer graphic novel, who wrote that? I don't remember.
Jim Starlin.
Jim did. That's right, because you actually gave me a copy of that at the con that I met you at.
Oh, did I?
Okay. Yeah, that I remember for sure had the painted cover.
Yes, I sent you that too.
What's that? Yeah, send it over.
I sent you that too. Anyways, yes, I had the painted cover.
When you paint, do you work bigger than the standard 11x17?
Yes. Yeah, totally.
So how big? How much?
I'm looking at my Punisher one, trying to think of how big it is. It's more than twice up, even maybe 3 times.
And is it? This is coming from a guy who doesn't paint much but love looking at painted stuff. Are you working acrylic? What are you working in when you paint?
I have a lot of experience working in acrylic. I did that like before I even went to art school. I was doing acrylic paintings a lot, and in art school I was doing some. But then I switched over to really just watercolor and gouache, or making my own gouache more. The paintings you're looking at of mine, like the Punisher, Silver Surfer, those are watercolor, and either gouache or me mixing like white, like Pro White or something with the colors. To get a more pigmented color, but I didn't use I didn't use acrylics then.
See, that's that. I mean, we did have painting classes at the Kubert school, and that's if I could go back and either tell my younger self something or just go back knowing what I know now, I would have paid a lot more attention in those, because it was from 88 to 91. And I was just so focused on penciling and inking that, I had Rowena Morell as a painting teacher. And
awesome.
I just did. Yeah, it was if I was smart, but I was a dumbass because I wanted to just pencil comics and ink them. So I did the bare minimum in her class just to get by. But I wish I would have picked her brain more and paid attention more, because now, if I had a crystal ball, Alex Ross, you were painting before then. So many people, Joe Jusko was, and I just look at that stuff and I try to like reverse engineer it when I look at it, So just that Silver Surfer that you said you did with like watercolor and gouache, I'm looking at it going, is this acrylic? Let me try and back this up.
I mean, it's kind of acrylic style, you might say, the way I'm working, because I used to work the way I would work back then, and I don't do this now, but I would start out, I did my pencil drawing down and start working light and build up heavier onto it. Now I work much differently, but I had a great watercolor class at the American Academy of Art for one of the years I went there. So that was 3 hours a day of that. Wow. And Irving Shapiro is a well-known watercolor artist, doing landscapes, things like that. That's what we were doing. We weren't doing portraits so much. I mean, it was mostly all landscape stuff. But you had to finish a watercolor painting each class, in
really?
3 hours. Yeah.
So because you were doing landscape stuff, was it like, okay, you picked the photo to work for? Because I assume you were working from a photo. You weren't going out.
The way he taught you is you would have your photo reference, but you would do a like detailed thumbnail where you would show all your values, and that would be your main guide when you were doing the painting, almost less so than the photo.
Right. So when you paint, and I'll just use this, just paint in general, I guess. Do you do, like, I know some guys will do full blown, basically monochromatic, say with like a sepia tonal value of the painting before they add any color? Or like, what would you say your process is now?
I sent you some samples of that. Some of it, there's a couple step-by-steps in there where it shows this, but I basically now work doing everything in, well, I do like a single ink line using the Kubert pen, the 512 EF, is it? You know,
Oh yeah, it's like that. Well, that's like the barrel point. Isn't that like
right. Yeah, ballpoint. Yeah, yeah. So that's my main inking tool. Anyway, so I use that first, basically doing sort of a deadline outline on everything. Then I use black gouache instead of using black ink. Use black gouache to do all my blacks, and then washes for everything else instead of doing shading or any crosshatch or anything with a pen. I just do everything in washes. But my paintings, I would do like things. It's the paintings I do these days. If it's a painting, it's usually a commission that I would do like that. And so I do everything in black and white first. Then I add watercolor to it. You know, transparent, mostly transparent watercolor to it. So that combines with all those gray tones and everything. So then you get, you know, if you put down yellow on top of multiple values of black, you get multiple values of this yellow now. So, and that's the way Alex Ross works.
I was going to say, that sounds just like
mostly. It's really, it's a traditional way with a lot of illustrators, not doing the ink line part of it, but where everything is down first, and you could use sepia or, you know, but, or using black like this, and then going on top of that. You can notice it in some old illustrators' works. You could see how much black there is in this stuff. And then also, if you look at early Alex Ross stuff, not so much now. Now he has a lot of paint on there, but you really can see the black values underneath everything. And then he'll add some more pigmented color on top of that if needed. But it's made it easier for me to paint than the way I used to go, which would, I mean, those paintings I would do for those covers, not to mention they're large, it easily took a month on those things.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Holy crap.
And I spent all day doing the face, and then all day doing part of the figure, and then the next day, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Dan Lawless says, Boris used brown acrylic for the values and then finished in full color with oil.
Right. That's
I knew that.
Also a classic way of working. Yes.
Yeah.
With oil for sure. I mean, Frazetta did that too, I think.
You've probably seen,
to some extent.
You've seen the book. It came out probably early 80s, maybe even late 70s that Boris put out on painting.
I was early on painting or his paintings.
No, how to paint.
Oh no, I've never seen that. I have a couple of his books though that I bought in the early days.
Oh yeah, no, he put out a book on how to paint. But the problem was and I didn't know this obviously as a kid learning, but looking at it now, the problem is he goes from one step to this other step, and back then I'm looking at it going, holy crap. But now it's like, dude, you needed to show a couple more steps in between.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, well, you see like all the, like when even Joe Kubert, when in some of the early Tarzans or wherever it was, he would show how to draw something, and it'd be like circles, and then a few more lines, and next thing you know, it's a full blown drawing. It's like, so it's like, I mean, you do learn from it, but it's a lot left out.
Yeah, there was a lot left out. And I still have it. I don't have the dust jacket. Something happened to the dust jacket, but I do still have that Boris book. I can understand it now, but yeah, Dan's right. He would do, that's why I brought up like sepia, because he would do like this full tonal sepia thing, and then just go in with the acrylics or oils and just basically do washes over it, building up to the opaque highlights.
Oh, and I should say hi to Dan too.
Yeah, it's Dan doesn't care.
Dan does care.
Dan does care. He's gonna.
Yeah.
Dan's sitting there at home right now, going, "He said hi." I know Dan's up there in that neck of the woods somewhere.
Well, speaking of Dan, Past Master Dan's asking, Bill, where did you get that rad Captain America shirt?
Are you talking about what I'm wearing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's got all bunch of characters on it. I got it for a birthday or something, or Christmas from my family, and I never had a shirt like this before. You know, you go to a con, everybody's got them on.
Yeah.
And so I got my uniform on today. Anyways,
It's,
but yeah,
it's like
so and I just thought, you know, and I know pretty much all the artists that worked on this thing, so it was cool, you know. So I like it.
Favorite Captain America artist? Pick one.
Oh, Kirby. Second
Okay.
would be Steranko.
Oh,
The second.
Steranko
second.
is just like
Big influence on me too.
Steranko's a guy who, you know, for the little bit of comics he did, it just obviously it wasn't enough. But yeah, I love his.
Third
I
be
love
Gene Colan.
his cat.
Third be Gene Colan, I guess.
Who'd you like inking over Gene the most?
Oh, probably Tom Palmer. I like when I like when he does stuff alone too. But then I don't know, who else could you think of?
I like those few issues of Cap that Joe Sinnott inked over Gene.
Oh, those are really interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of moves away from his stuff, but it was very nice. And then Klaus Janson is also inked.
Oh yeah, Klaus.
Yeah.
All right, so favorite
go ahead.
Favorite Batman artist.
Frank Robbins.
Really?
Top. He's actually, Frank Robbins maybe has become my favorite comic book artist.
Really? Even over like, well, I was going to say
forget all his Marvel stuff. Forget all his Marvel stuff. When he did his strips, Johnny Hazard, and when he worked on Batman at DC, and I know his stuff's quirky and this and that. The same way some people don't like Ditko, you know, but also Ditko's my favorite Spider-Man artist. A lot of people would say, no, Romita, you know.
But you see, I don't mind. I know what you're saying about Frank's Marvel stuff, but I got to be honest. I like some of the Captain America stuff he did.
Yeah, but I would like to have seen him ink it though. It would have been even better. So so that's all I'm talking about. So to me, the stuff's diluted when other people ink them. Even the people who did the best job. There's some people who did a really nice job, but it's not the same, you know, as him inking himself. And it's just the black spotting and the amount of drawing and draftsmanship that Frank Robbins had, just like doing the folds on a coat or something, are just like amazing to me. And he comes from that Kniff.
Yeah, Kniff.
And what's his name before Kniff?
Sickles?
What?
Noel Sickles?
Noel Sickles, yeah, Noel Sickles, yes. Noel Sickles supposedly was the first one really to develop that kind of look, and then Kniff took it up.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he comes from that school, and then that influenced a lot of people, the early comic book artists, especially the inkers. You would see it in their work. Frank Giacoia has a lot of that in his stuff. So does John Romita.
I was going to say John Romita Sr. when he inks his own work.
Yeah,
holy crap.
His early stuff looks towards Kniff, like you know. So yeah, but otherwise, after Robbins, I mean, for Batman, probably the one that would be in my head the most was Bernie Wrightson when he did him in Swamp Thing. But of course, I like Neil Adams a lot.
Well, yeah.
But you know, he didn't strike me the same as Bernie Wrightson stuff. Really, the way Bernie Wrightson did the cape and everything, and the big ears, and I just loved it.
All right, so being a Frank Robbins guy, I can still remember, and I still own him as well. I bought him as a kid. The first Frank Robbins stuff I saw, Man from Atlantis.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, see, sure. I can't barely look at some of that stuff of his, because it's just not the same as when he inks himself.
No, I know.
It never. So it's like, but you know, of course, the him doing the what was it? What was the series with all the superheroes?
Invaders.
Frank Robinson. Invaders. Yeah, I bought that stuff when it came out.
That was inked by Vinny, which didn't. I mean,
he did. It was a bunch of people actually.
Well, I know the
he
first
did
issue
it.
was
I
big.
think Frank Springer did some that was really nice,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe Giacoya,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget somebody else. There was a few issues that were kind of nice. And one time I think Romita might have inked one of his covers or something.
Oh,
Yeah, he would have been a great. If Romita had inked him, it would have been awesome.
It would have been fantastic because he would have taken every female face and done a Romita on it.
Yeah, right. Actually, Frank Robbins did great female faces. I mean, compared to like somebody who wouldn't like Steve Ditko's female faces so much. Frank Robbins was great at them. I mean, you see a Frank Robbins female face is a John Romita female face. They look almost the same.
Cool. What's up, David Williams?
He's saying, "Yo,
Hey,
Bill,
David.
how you doing, bro?"
Have you seen, going back to Gene Colan, did you ever see the few romance jobs Gene did that John Romita Sr. inked? Oh,
yes. Yeah, I bought a number of those when they first came out. Like My Love.
Yeah, that was a
My
great
Love.
pair.
Yeah, I bought those. Yeah.
Anybody John Romita Sr. inked was just like...
Yeah, there was that one issue where everybody was trying to figure out who did what, because I think Romita might have inked the whole issue, but also you had John Buscema penciled one of them, but didn't have credits.
I'll have to find that one. I don't have them all, but I have...
I don't either, but I bought a few, especially the first issues. My Love #1 is a really, really good issue.
Yeah.
Art-wise, really good art.
Torchbearer Studios is asking, nowadays, Bill, do you do any touch-up digitally?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, as an inker, I would do that too. I don't really work digitally, fully. I don't have a tablet. I still have a mouse, but I mean, even when I've done coloring on some of my stuff digitally, and I just do it all with a mouse.
Wow.
Anyways, so when I would be working on something, especially when you started being able to scan your own stuff, that's when I would do this.
Sure.
I would afterwards I would do a lot of touch-up stuff, especially when I started using a lot of washes. Sometimes I'd scan a page and I'd put that page in like 3 layers. In one of the layers, I might make the blacks darker. Another one of the layers, I might bring up, some of the tonal stuff more, or bring it down.
Right.
Sometimes add special effects a little bit, like some like clouds or, like some explosion things or whatever, or at least embellish what I had done. I mean, it wouldn't be noticeable, and sometimes you'd have to do corrections that, for whatever reason, usually it's because some continuity thing and nobody was in touch with each other and they changed that guy's costume. You got to fix it, whatever. So, and so I would do that digitally. And so I definitely like doing that a lot. And I love scanning my own stuff and doing the levels and everything and getting it right where I want it. That's what I prefer. That's what I prefer.
I still, it's weird because back when back with, I don't know, 20 years ago, whatever it was, we would, level it out and then I would threshold it for the real strong black and white. So there's no gray pixels at all. And which obviously if you're doing wash, you can't do. But even to this day with my work, because it's, it's mine, so I can do what I want and I don't use gray tones, I still level it up and then do the threshold because I just want to get the rich black and white.
Yeah, but you also want to get it to the right place, because if you threshold it too high, then it drops out all your fine lines. And the thing is, when you would send it into the offices, like at Marvel or DC, they obviously had one threshold on everything. So I got so many bad scans of my stuff. I like to use the dry brush and stuff, and then not to mention even just fine lines with a pen, and there'd be all kinds of stuff dropping out. And there was nothing you could do about it. So, and when it first went to people being able to scan their own stuff, I didn't know anything about that yet, and so I would have other people scan my stuff, people I knew, and then they would send it in for me. But eventually, I learned how to do it, and and then that was great. And just that's all I've ever done. And working in washes, it was really great. And as soon as they, oh no, I should have turned my phone off. Sorry, guys.
Oh, we don't even know. That's when you're on. We can't tell that you're getting a call.
Oh, so. Good. Okay, no. Fine. It'll be gone in a second. So when they started being able, you could scan your own stuff, and you got to use grays. What I did was I started, even if I just worked in only ink, then I would scan in grayscale, and then play with the levels, and that's what I sent in. I didn't make it all black. So that way, basically what my work would look like that the colorist was doing was the original art. That's what it looked like. So like when people, they see comic book art published, even if it's in black and white, and then they see the original where there's all these values in the blacks and the grays of the blacks, or even in the pen work, they go, oh wow, I really like how that looks. Well, that's how my scans look. So that's how I scan it, send that in, and when I use the washes, the colorists will digitally change those into color, which is not too hard to do. I've done that a lot myself. But most of my coloring I do, if I color myself for something which is rare, and that's usually for one-off things, I do everything in washes, and then I translate all my washes, or a lot of them, into color.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and that looks like a painting.
So present day, what's Bill up to these days?
Well, I sent you some of that stuff too.
All right, hold on.
I'm doing a graphic novel called The Flying Column with Carl Potts.
Okay.
It's a long book, 134 pages, and I've been working on it for way too long, but it's gigantic, and I'm close to halfway through. First I did all the thumbnails and the whole thing. Then I did rough pencils on it all, and now I'm doing finishes in ink and wash. And that's what takes all my time now. It's a World War II book. Takes place in the Philippines. It's about this rescue mission at this internment camp in Manila, at Santo Tomas University, and which is it was mostly Americans in there, but other people too. So that's what the story is about, and Carl's family is involved with that to some extent. That's also.
So I can show. Can I show?
He has a history with it. Sure.
Can I show some of the pages?
Sure, please.
Okay, hold on a second.
I sent you, I don't know, 6 of them or something.
There we go. Here's one.
There you go. Yeah. Now there's
does this have a publisher or?
Yes, it does. It's cool. Naval Institute Press is the major, but Dead Reckoning is their graphic novel division. If I, hopefully they'll still be in business by the time I'm done with this thing. Anyways, they've been around for a really, really long time. They publish, Naval Institute Press basically publishes nonfiction books about naval subjects, about the military and this and that. And then they started a graphic novel division, and that's what this is part of. We started I did samples, and we started shopping around and a little bit, and these guys grabbed it up right away. So that was nice.
So here's a question. When you're doing gray tones like this, like a painting, do you do like on the side, like after you have the panel inked, right, in black and white?
Yeah, all it is that pen, the 513 EF. That's all the outline is that pen. Occasionally the 108 a little bit for small details.
But do you rough in on a copy like a rough gray tone of it, or do you just go time to do gray tones?
Not really. A little bit. The thumbnails had washes on them, and but it's kind of random. Yeah, so it's more thinking about design of the page. I don't do it very detailed at all, as you might imagine. But yes. So there is a little bit of a rough to it first, thinking about it. About whether like at that bottom left panel there, whether that's a silhouette pretty much, and then
Right.
Yeah.
as the characters go back and then lighten up for maybe like have a a background of all like trees, and those might be set way back in
Right.
a lighter tone. That's the thing I love about using washes, is how I could play with the foreground, middle ground, background so much. Where if you're just using ink, you would do that either by leaving things open for the colorist, or maybe you would do a lot of finer line to set something back. But I can just do that with a wash.
Ah.
So
Hey, Torchbearer Studios is asking, this sounds great. Is it going to be crowdfunded? And
No, the
Past
publisher.
Master Dan's following it up with, when's the launch?
yeah, no, it's not a
That I
crowdfunding.
can't tell you yet, but I will say that if I do any kind of crowdfunding, it will be in along with it. Maybe I'll put out like a sketchbook or this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Something to go along with it.
Sure.
But as far as the actual published book, no, there's already a publisher.
What?
They're
So
paying me as I turn the work in.
So if you screw up when you're doing the gray tone, how do you fix it?
Well, in a smaller way, as I do done forever with the ink stuff too, I usually just use a razor blade for the most part,
Oh
or
yeah.
sometimes an electric eraser.
Okay.
I just use like a single edge razor blade, scrape stuff off.
Are
But
you
if
just
I
work-
need be, I'll use white gouache and go in there, and although sometimes just for effects too. But in general, I try and make it work initially.
Right. What are you working on? Is it just regular 2-ply Bristol or 3-ply or what?
Well,
Because
that's
it's
the
ink wash.
thing. That's the thing. Okay, so you know how the Bristol boards, the Strathmore was considered the best, was getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
The quality. You could buy
Yeah.
the 500 series was the best Strathmore.
Right.
Then that started going downhill. I was in touch with Strathmore, like, what's going on? And they sent me like sample papers, and they were like, try this, try that, and none of it was good. So the main problem was, now the way I was using ink, because I wasn't using a lot of crow quill, where you get that spidering sometimes and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. Because just using the 513 EF, which has got that kind of rounded edge, it doesn't dig into the paper
Yeah, glide.
much. So it wasn't, a big deal. But I discovered when I would do washes on that paper, and I was using three ply, I would do washes on the paper. It started soaking it up right away, where it used to not be like that. It would float more. But because because the rag was getting so low in those papers and everything, it started becoming like, okay, if you've ever done ink washes is almost like working with acrylics. When you put it down, once it's down, it starts drying. It's down. It's not going to move. Yeah. But with watercolor or gouache, if you put it on paper and the paper is wet, you can move it around a little bit, or even while it's there with black gouache. When you put solid black down, you could go back in it and soften the edges of it, or any of the pigment that's sitting on top. So I had to switch to watercolor paper. And this watercolor paper works great, even just for straight ink.
It's not too toothy? It's not super toothy?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Oh.
It's Fluid is the name of the company. And this one is you might say like a regular surface Bristol almost. Maybe slightly more toothy, but I'm totally okay with that because I like that. I've never used smooth. And so this paper is fantastic. I recommend it to people who are like frustrated with the paper they're inking on. And this paper's better than any of the Bristols to me.
So much knowledge. We need a painting how-to book from Mr. Reinhold from Torchbearer Studios.
So maybe that'll be the crowdfunding.
And Mucky Poo Mousy says, does Reinhold collect models like the planes, or mostly just photo reference?
Oh, yeah, okay. For this book, fortunately, with the few planes I had to draw, I was fortunate to find decent reference. But
Cool.
I bought a Jeep. I have replicas of guns,
Oh, nice.
World War II guns, because if you look for reference for a gun, it's going to be this angle, that angle.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to get what you want. So when I worked in the Punisher, I did the same thing. I bought replicas of Uzis and handguns.
Oh yeah.
And would look at those in the mirror or take a photo for my reference. And for the Punisher, I did the Intruder novel and a bunch of planes. I bought models, put those together for the planes so I could turn them this way and that way. They're over sitting on my shelf over there. So yes, I do like using models but all the guns like you're seeing these guys carrying, I would pose with that and look in the mirror or take a photo, and that way I could get exactly what I want and get it correct.
Isn't it nice? I tell you, don't you wish you had a smartphone, 30, 40 years ago? Because if I do need like reference for a pose, I'll just put my phone into a clamp that I have and then, reverse the camera so I can see what I'm doing, and then just hit like a 10-second delay so I can get back into that pose real quick and take the picture.
I'll tell you what I do these days is on my Mac, I'm trying to remember the app now, but basically it'll take photos or film. This goes all the way back. Before digital, I was working like this. I take a film these days of myself posing or somebody else, with my phone or whatever. Then I do screen grabs for the reference.
Oh yeah.
So that way you could tell somebody, like if you've ever had anybody model for you, at some point they start getting irritated with you because they're like trying to hold this pose, or you're making them do something that is almost physically impossible because your thumbnail, you drew the arm going this way and it physically can't be done. Anyway, so
no, I said, Dennis, I need you to touch your toes, and he's like, dude, it's really impossible. And I was like, you're useless to me as a model, Dennis.
So now I could have somebody pose in front of me or myself, and I could say, okay, hold the gun, and I say, okay, now slowly turn this way, raise it up this way, and I film all this. Then I do screen grabs to get what I want. What I did years ago, and I did this on the Surfer novel and some Punisher stuff, because I used a model for the Surfer in the novel. A friend of mine who's an actor, model, and I would use a VHS camera and take film of him, then put it on my television and turn the color down on the TV and take Polaroids of the screen.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a screen grab with a Polaroid camera.
Oh, wow.
Polaroids. God, I love that. Pull it out, wave it. There you go.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to wave it, but people think you do.
I know.
But
everybody waved it.
I thought that for years. I thought was helping it somehow, but
I know. So how far into this graphic novel are you now? Halfway, you said?
Close to half, yeah. I mean, it's all rough pencil.
Right.
And then close to half finished like this.
Oh, and what's the total page count going to be?
134.
134, and
I'll do a cover too.
You definitely got to let once this baby's ready to come out, you definitely got to start, posting, and we'll have you back on.
Oh, I'll be yelling it from the rooftops. Don't worry.
Yeah. Now, is this going to be black and white, or is it colored?
Sepia.
Grayscale.
Sepia.
So are you doing that where you're taking the pages and converting it, or somebody else?
Originally I thought they were going to do something just with whatever formula, and they said, no, you do that. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, if I could do that, then man, I could play with all kinds of stuff. But
so wait, have you tried?
Basically that means, as far as I know, basically that means they're going to use my full color scan.
Right.
I'll get a sepia formula, initially.
Right.
But then, if I want to move stuff up and down or whatever, I could do that.
So
there's a step-by-step here. There's a step-by-step here of Galactus of how I work. My painting, sort of my wash style. There's 3 steps there, I think. There's the line.
And that's what
that's all the 513 EF.
Yep.
And then.
Oh my God, that is intense.
Then the gouache.
That's all just black gouache, huh?
That's a black gouache, and then all the all diluted after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lamp black, Gouache is my favorite from, gosh, I don't think it's Winsor Newton. I forget now. Anyways, but it's a colder black. That's all I could say.
Wow.
You know, Dennis was once told by somebody he met at a bar that he was a colder black. I didn't quite get it until I started hanging out with him, and I was like, I see.
I knew as soon as I said that something would there'd be some joke.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of comments about that, the World War II book and stuff in the chat. A lot of excitement. I'm a World War II buff, love it, so I'm already excited. The chat's looking forward to. Yes, we definitely can't wait. Oh, that's awesome.
So you had me all revved up to see that Galactus in full color.
Yeah, that was a commission, and it was to be black and white. But here's the way I did a bunch of zombie stuff for fun to sell, and the way I worked is kind of what we talked about: to the open line work, then the washes, then watercolor on top. So you can see, like in the mask, you can see some of those washes in the mask. But then when I put the yellow on top and everything, it all combines nicely.
Are you using? I'm such a medium type. Are you using tubes of watercolor or just pans?
I use tubes usually. Pans sometimes, but
that's cool. I got to.
That's how I learned it. That's how I learned in watercolor classes, using a palette, kind of a limited palette, and then mixing everything from there.
I love seeing the different ways because I'm such a novice painter. I can color in digital, no problem. But when it comes to traditional painting, I love experimenting with different ways until I find one that I like, and I'm not.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like a cheat code, doing the black and white first and washes, and then putting the watercolor on top. It's like all of a sudden all this work's already done for you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I would imagine, and not take the drawing out of it, right? I would imagine the most labor-intensive part of this is the wash, the black and white wash, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But there's Justice Machine.
Look at that.
That's an unpublished cover. It was going to be for Justice Machine #1 in '83, and Jeff D inked that.
See, I would never have thought this was a brush, because I remember Jeff's inks over you, and I thought it was a pen.
I mean, he used pen too, but for the most part, it was a brush.
Right. Wow. And he just basically was like, "Yeah, I've had enough of comics," and dropped out, huh?
Yeah, I don't know his full story on that, but yes, basically that's what he did. He started out in gaming, did a lot of that. The same with Bill Willingham. They both came from that. They worked together a lot back in the day. And those guys pulled me into doing some Villains of Vigilante stuff and some other things.
Now, was this just a gray toned commission, not full color?
That was a commission. Yeah. The same style of working technique.
Nice. Is this like 11 by 17? What are we looking at here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. For things like that or commissions, I never go larger than 11 by 17.
Now, for people in the audience, are you available for commissions like this, or?
Barely. I mean, I have a bunch I haven't done. So, I mean, people can write me, and I could, try and keep them in mind, but I will not make any promises. Not to mention, and not to mention, just to tell people, I never take money ahead of time. So, if they ask me to do something, I'll try and do it. And when I'm going to do it, I will let them know, and they could pay me when it's done or part of it before if they feel like it.
Now, this is Magnus Robot Fighter, isn't it?
Yes, that's a Dark Horse. That's a Dark Horse, though. And I did like 3 issues. I did the first issue, second issue, third issue, fourth issue. I couldn't do it anymore. But it was only 4 issues. And Jim Shooter wrote that.
Okay, I was going to ask. That's cool. How do you write? Is he plot? Did he do old school plot, or did he draw it out? I know when he first started, I talked to him. He showed me he used to draw stuff out.
Oh, the way Baron used to do too. Yeah, that's the way I worked. That's the way I worked with Baron. On pretty much everything I did with Baron was like that. So no, he didn't draw it out, and it was a full script, and also he he's got his personal way of doing things, and you kind of have to work with his direction. Like for the book, he wanted everything to be traditional 6-panel, or maybe at least the 6-panel kind of layout, and then maybe you have a 2 panels combined, whatever, for a bottom tier or something. But he didn't want any long horizontal panels going up and down, or a lot of diagonal ones. He didn't want any of that stuff. And so I really felt I was held back on doing my best work on the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, if I had to, I would, but I don't know if I could. I'm not a 6-panel grid guy.
Yeah, I mean, I like to do it to a certain extent. Like I did the Surfer novel, I threw some like Kirby kind of layouts and some of that stuff. But otherwise, I really got influenced by doing a lot of diagonal stuff from, like, I don't know, anything from Gene Colan to I mean, I think some stuff Neil Adams did, Gil Kane. I mean, I loved all that stuff. Jose Garcia Lopez had a big influence on me at the time with layouts.
Yeah.
This was a commission for a family friend who wanted the birds representing southern Wisconsin.
Holy crap! Does that represent southern? Dennis, do you feel at home?
Yeah, I recognize some of them. I'm looking for the robin.
There's a robin in there, and there's an eagle too, which you see sometimes.
There's an eagle right there.
Yeah, and then there's a little owl in a tree.
Where's the robin? Come on, where is it, Dennis?
There's a robin.
I don't know what a robin looks like. Which one is it? This one?
Isn't that the robin next to the blue jay?
Wait, is that lower? No, that's
the orange right here with the yellow beak next to the blue jay.
For some reason, that doesn't look like a robin to me. Whatever, I can't remember now.
So yeah, just say yes, Dennis. You're right.
Yeah, I find that's the best way sometimes.
Yeah, robins are the biggest bird around here for sure. It's sparrows.
Oh yeah, I remember this too. Because I did look through everything, Bill, you sent. I love this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I know, but I thought once in a while we were talking about stuff that helps to.
Oh yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up. I never even thought of going, I should just share this stuff he sent me. I freaking love it.
Hey, some people, they have no idea who I am. So, it's like, anyway, so, but Prowler, that was a pinup, but I did a 4-issue series that Carl Potts wrote.
That's great. I do. I love the atmosphere to it, because, you had that, you came up in a time, and I mean, so did I, where you were supposed to get across everything in the black and white. And what I mean is, you're supposed to be able to go, you're like, is it windy out? Is it snowing? Is it cold?
Yeah.
And you should be able to tell that in black and white and not need color. And
or at least you could say today you can work in tandem with the colorist and make all that happen. Right. But you had to pretty much do that by yourself, and the colorist was secondary, very much so.
Whereas today, going back to how you're doing, your inking with your dead line weight, I mean, dude, people have styles that do that now, because the coloring can just do everything.
I was first influenced by that mostly, besides Kubert, was a lot of European stuff. Yeah. And the only way I came upon it was Adam Kubert again. I was looking around. I was looking at a lot of European art, and I was thinking, what are they using? It looks like they're using a fountain pen or something. Maybe they were, but they were getting this dead weight line on everything, slightly flexible, that I really liked. Because I liked it. I was changing my style to work more like that and do all the lighting from within, and not try and do heavy contours and things like that.
Right.
And I talked to Adam, and I said, "What does your dad use?" And he told me that pen, and that was it. I just started using that. From then on.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, when I went there and Joe was talking about inking in class, he'd be like, "I use this pen. I outline everything. Then I'll use maybe a 102 for thinner feathering."
I used a 102 early, but I got away from it.
Yeah, and then for thick stuff, Joe's like, then I'll get out the brush to hit real hard stuff. But the thing was, see, it was weird, not weird, but before I went to the Kubert school and I was, teaching myself, I was along the lines of inking, if something's in the foreground, you give it a heavier line weight and establish depth that way. Whereas if you look at Joe stuff, and what I love about it is it's all the depth is established by the amount of rendering, not the line weights, so you can look at it, like I've got all the Tarzan artist editions that IDW put out, right? And you look at that.
I love this Tarzan,
yeah. And you look at it and it's like Tarzan's in the foreground and he's rendered up, lots of feathering. And then there's a midground figure, which has just a little bit feathering. And then a background figure is just like an outline.
Or as Adam told me, he calls his dad's little teeny figures in the back clothespin people.
Oh, yeah.
Joe they look like a head. And Joe called that too?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, at the Kubert school, now, Joe's like, yeah, clothespin people. Which, the funny thing is, I tried that when I first, started working in comics, and I would do a long shot. That's a really, at least for me, that just comes down to balls and confidence, because I would do it and I would look at it and go like, no way, the editor's going to be like, what the hell is that?
Well, now I can do them with a wash, just like kind of a blip and blop, of a figure. I wanted to point out here, just for the inkers out there. Sure. I was using early on in my inking, I was using almost all brush and some pen, and then I discovered the 102 and was using that, and that's kind of all I knew. But then I was looking at Al Williamson's work and Tom Palmer, and I would see them using something flexible, a more flexible pen, and so I found out about those guys using the 108, and that changed everything for me. And the 102 was gone, and I just used the 108 and a brush, and that was great for inking other people, especially. I used the 108 quite a bit. On that Adam Kubert stuff, a ton of 108. This has a bunch of 108 on it. I mean, I could use it you can go from a thin line to a really thick line with turning the pen sideways.
Yeah. That's awesome. I knew that Al Williamson used the 108. I've experimented. As soon as I hear what somebody uses, at least, back in the day, I'd be like, I got to get it and try it. So I'm sure I've tried it. I'm using a 103 now, messing around with, which is pretty flexible as well.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, I don't think. I probably tried it, but I don't remember it.
Maybe it's a 108. It's so hard to read those freaking numbers. Honestly,
the 108 looks kind of copper like. The 108 looks kind of copper like.
No, I'm using a 103. Never mind.
Looks like a steel.
Yeah, because doesn't a 108, what size holder does that fit? Does that fit the same size as a 102 or
I'm holding it up.
Yeah, no, I'll full screen it. Hold on. Yeah, no, I'm using a 103 because a 103 goes into the same size holder as that 513.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm using a 103 then.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. Well, Bill, we're going to wrap it up here because we've been going for an hour and a half.
There has been a lot of comments about all the knowledge you've imparted, Bill. They love it. The chat's loving all of this.
Cool.
There are quite a few people saying you should do a how-to book for doing that. So, hey, food for thought.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, or at the very least, I should be doing demonstrations on YouTube or something, but I just never have done it. I have to get I think the few times I fooled around with that a little bit, and I set up my phone with a holder, and it was like, I'm trying to use that, and I was just never satisfied with how it was going. So I'd have to figure that out. But I really should do it.
If you need any, seriously, if you need any tips or whatever, I do all
right, I'll think about it.
I use my phone and I do a time-lapse video that I upload to my channel every week where, the drawing takes me like 2 hours, but the app I use I have an iPhone, so it's not the actual time lapse on the camera with the iPhone. It's an app called, I think it's called iLapse. I have to look at it, but point is, after you film it, you can adjust the frame rate and all this stuff.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice.
Super easy.
Yeah.
Dan Lawless says, thank you, Bill. So he stuck around the entire show just to say
Thanks,
thank
Dan.
you. Told you he would
I
appreciate
know.
it.
And guys, before we go, we're going to show you the other video
Why
that
don't we do
Dennis and I
that?
are
Why
in.
don't we do that now and we can come
Can't
back
wait.
and chat.
We will. Check this one out. And guys in
All
the
right.
chat,
It's our newest one from the Bellwinter Studios.
that's right. So check this out and let us know if you can tell what movie this is from. Hold on. I gotta look close at my screen. There it is. All right, here we go.
Hey,
First one in
come
the
on.
chat.
Let's go, Captain Lindfors. Try again. Hey, everybody. Is there a window open? I feel a draft. Ah. Wanted a kiss and call your mother. Oh, that was a good one.
Hey, prehistoric forest.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Andy. I shouldn't have called an apple fritter a donut.
Really? What changed your mind?
Well, might have been that 2x4 you hit me with out there. Hurts here, a little bit here, but mostly here.
Yeah, well, Miss, are apple fritters donuts?
Absolutely.
I knew it. Yeah, well, anyways, I'll have a waffle.
Absolutely. You heard it. Apple fritters are absolutely donuts. No, for
That
the
look
big
on my
argument.
face, that look on my face too. I'm just like, oh. That,
So,
now, Bill,
did either of you guys actually have acting backgrounds?
I mean, I do.
I
You
don't
do?
know.
Okay.
I went to school for radio, TV,
But I mean, that's-
film, but that's about the extent of
That's
it.
all AI. So,
No.
but no, Dennis and I had the, and well, you know, Bill, we'll ask you: is an apple fritter a donut?
No.
Oh.
A donut.
Okay, so you've got
It's
two
a
people
pastry.
now
I call it a pastry. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you go to Dunkin' Donuts, it is literally one
Right.
of their donuts.
Do
So,
they
you
call
know,
it a donut there? They
Yes,
call it the
'cause they
apple
do-
fritter donut.
Yep, because they're all donuts
Really?
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just had
Yeah.
one of those recently
But
too.
Andy and I tend to get into lively, heated discussions about things like is a casserole the same thing as
Oh, no, that wasn't
as,
you and
no,
me.
no,
I
no, what
agree.
I'm saying, we get into it. It was a casserole and a pot pie, which are totally different. But these are the kind of arguments that we have, heated debates on our show, and you know,
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Some people think it is.
yeah, I am now.
Yeah.
All the criteria.
It's not a sandwich. It's not a sandwich, damn it. But you know what there's no argument about when Dennis and I talk is KOR-DRATH The Awakening, guys. That is our current crowdfund campaign, KOR-DRATH The Awakening, the continuing saga of KOR-DRATH and Adriana as they continue their fight, their quest against the evils of Vordoom, the Undying, to save the Shattered Reach from his evil clutches. 64 pages of fantastic barbarian action, a little bit of magic thrown in there as well. Oh, by the way,
I like
Bill,
how Andy, real quick. I like how loose you got on your inks on this stuff. I was looking at a bunch of it,
oh, thank
and
you.
I was kind of surprised.
Oh yeah, no, I've. It's just one of those things. Working, you know, when I was working in mainstream, because of what I guess I was known for, I never felt that I could, like, I guess, do that. But this is my, you know, my thing and Dennis's, and that's what I want to do. So, and this is Dan Lawless on colors, by the way, for the cover.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, Dan did a great job.
Yeah, he did.
And then preview pages, these are colored by somebody else. Nanjan Jambiri, who I've worked with many times. Dennis, of course, doing the great writing. We've got new monsters, new characters in this book. And Bill, I actually did an artist edition of this. So we'll have to talk. Maybe you've got something over there, and if you want to do a little trade book for book or something.
Oh,
we can chat about it.
I don't know what I got. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
I might have something. Yeah.
Probably have something of yours that I don't have. Let's see. Let me keep going down here. So then, Bill, homage cover, Conan #2, my little homage to Barry
Yeah, that's
Windsor.
the one that really caught my eye. That's the one that really caught my eye.
Oh, thank you.
You know, my wife Linda was partners with Barry Windsor Smith.
I know. I'm so
Yeah.
jealous. I got to meet him. I got to meet him once, but that was about
I
30
never got
years
them.
ago.
I never met him. I met everybody else from the studio. I never met him.
Really?
I talked to him, but I've never met him.
Wow. This is another one. This is Bud Root, colored by Dan Lawless, variant cover.
Nice.
Our pal Bud Root, known for Cave Woman. There's his line art for it. So he's a Mr. Micron type guy.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, there it is. There's the black. So we're doing the whole book in black and white as well. Not an artist edition, but just,
that's great.
Contrast black and white, so you can actually read it and stuff.
Yeah. I was always happy when my stuff got reprinted, like in Europe or something, in black and white. Like Punisher stuff.
Oh, I would so love this. Dennis and I both, we just don't know who to talk to, but we'd love to try and get this published over there. Dennis wrote another game GAME module. So if you're a role player for Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that, got to get the second one, of course. T-shirt, new T-shirt, Adriana. Bill, every one of our books, I always do a parody ad because, like you, I grew up loving those Hostess ads.
Sure.
So, yeah, every book.
Nice.
I think this is Dennis's second parody ad because we did one in the first KOR-DRATH book, and then this is I think my fifth or sixth. I can't remember.
Instead of Hostess ads and KOR-DRATH, we're dealing with the Axmead Mead.
That's right.
A great alcohol for barbarians.
Because if these two ate Twinkies all the time, they would not have those bodies. So. And of course, we're hitting towards the first stretch goal. $50,000 unlocks the Vordoom 7x10 character card. Vordoom on the front, drawn by me, colored by Dan Lawless. His playable stats on the back, so he's a playable character. And some of the add-ons, KOR-DRATH, The Awakening, the layouts. So I'm doing a book of just my layouts, Bill, that so people can see what I ink my stuff.
Sure,
from.
nice. Yeah, I think people love seeing the steps.
Yeah. And then we've got The Reckoning, which was the first book in a small manga digest black and white version. And then a little bit larger color digest version. These are E for everyone.
Yep. We had a lot of people talk to us and say, hey, we love this book. We need something our younger kids can read. So we did some nice editing, took out the rated R stuff, and made it E for everyone that they can now take to school.
That's right. And if you're into the role-playing stuff, on checkout, you can add on the KOR-DRATH minifigures, a 2-inch version, perfect for role-playing, a 3-inch version, or the Big Bad Booty Daddy 5-inch version of KOR-DRATH. And you can get the collectible box. Featured well, it's not the featured tier, but there's a tier, the KOR-DRATH, the Awakening tier. Get every book in this nice collectible box. So, guys, go check out the campaign. If you've already backed it, share it with your friends. Sharing is caring. And, yeah, Marcus just showed, so we'll show it too. Let me remove this. We're doing, because we want everybody to read KOR-DRATH, we're doing KOR-DRATH, I Love to Read. It's an 8.5 by 8.5, 24-page children's book, all ages. Read it to your little one, or if they're just beginning to read, they can read it themselves. It's a nice Christmas story that will be shipping in time for Christmas. Sign up now. We're launching this in July because it's Christmas in July.
That's right. And there'll be an activity book with it as well. Right. So they can do crosswords, word search, all the great things that kids love to do in the car while you're traveling, and get them off those phones and tablets.
Right. They don't need to be on that electronic stuff. All three of us turned out just fine, and we had to sit in the backseat of our parents' cars for hours.
That's right.
Amusing
with
ourselves.
Fun pads.
Fun.
Well, you guys are covered with all those choices there. Wow.
That's what we're doing. Well, yeah. Bill, thank you for joining us. Hang back after we end the show.
It was fun.
We'll talk. Guys,
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, love to. It was great.
I could have talked for hours.
Yeah,
more.
You could have.
Shut up. But we gotta eat dinner. Next week, we've got Mark Polton joining us, and we've got Buzz Acevedo joining us. We're going to be streaming next week at 5 p.m. because of their work schedules. So join us next week at 5. That's right. We're going up against Aaron Lopresti's Graybeards, but that's okay.
You guys want to see us and Mark anyway.
We are so much more attractive than those guys.
And what are we going to have Friday morning?
Friday morning, the movie review is back. Dennis is back in town. Tomorrow night, we're going to go see Bad Boys 4. What's the subtitle? It's Bad Boys something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bad Boys, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence. They're back. Our movie review drops Friday morning. So like, subscribe, and share so you can catch the movie review.
And guys, my YouTube channel, I finally got, since I'm back, I got the omnibus for The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. And volume 1, and with the glow-in-the-dark cover, I even took a picture with it glowing in the dark and added it. But I'm doing my review on it. I do a nice page through on it, so you guys get to take a look at it. So if you're not subscribed to the DNA Show, make sure you are on my channel at Dennis Turner. That's on YouTube. And check that one out. I already got some great responses for it. It's a great book. Probably want to check it out. I know a lot of people didn't even know it was out there.
There you go. Until next time, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Live
Bye-bye.
long and prosper.
Gang sign, Dennis.
That's right.
An ancient evil awakened to slaughter his family. A mythical quest was revealed. Treacherous perils await. Lovers bound by destiny. Darkness gathers as a new game begins. One man's rage will shape worlds. KOR-DRATH, The Awakening. Only on Indiegogo. Back it now!